marketing's for show, sales is for dough.
I think we're probably jumping into that territory around hunters versus farmers. And
What's been the biggest change that you've seen occur from back when you started to today? What's next for selling?
I think self-service in sales is going to grow.
When dealing with salespeople and dealing with sales organizations, a new person coming into selling, does that person have to start building a social media following on behalf of the company that they're now working for? So talk to me about it. It's hard to have an argument with you, Ben. Welcome to the CEO and the Salesman podcast, where we interview sales leaders and business leaders to find out how to scale your business and grow a more successful company. Today, we're joined by Ben Wright from Stronger Sales Teams. And mate, I'm really excited to have this conversation today. How are you going today, Ben?
Really well, thank you, Matthew. Really nice to see you again. It's been a little bit of time since we last connected, but yeah, I'm excited as always to talk to you.
Mate, it's great. And it's nice to also talk to another salesperson because often I'm speaking to CEOs and leaders and coaches and the thing that really in relation to selling, in relation to business growth, I just sent an email out this morning actually that says marketing's for show, sales is for dough. And really when it comes down to it, if you're not actually making that sale and asking the question and driving that person forward, it's just going to be a lot of chat and not a lot of action. So mate, I'm very excited to have this conversation. So look, just by way of introduction, everybody who's not met Ben before, 10 years in corporate running massive sales teams, another dozen running his own businesses, also, getting quite large, more than 80 or so people, I think I remember you saying. And for the last couple of years, you've been running a coaching and consulting business, helping people grow stronger sales teams, and of course, also a podcast host. Did I get that right, Ben?
You have, and I have been a CEO along the journey, so I certainly can relate to the challenges of leading businesses. But for me, I think my relative strength has been in sales, and hence that's where I've landed these days.
Yeah, mate, me too. My business card might say CEO, but really it should just say salesperson, let's be honest, for me. So, mate, I want to dive into it. The art and science of selling. I started my first company in 1999. You started selling, a lot of years ago as well. What's actually changed? What's been the biggest change that you've seen occur from back when you started to today?
Gee, there's been a lot of changes. And when we talk about how long have I been in sales for, I'm 42 now. And I took my first full-time sales job as I finished university just before I was 21. I've now had more than half my life in sales, which is pretty amazing. In terms of what's changed, look, there's clearly in recent years, we've had a couple of big ticket impacts on the sales industry. And I might talk about these recent years because I think they're most relevant. The first one was the pre-COVID versus the post-COVID era. I think up until that time, sales was evolving. There were smaller changes, the growth of email, the growth of mobile phones, the BlackBerry. That was my first phone that had emails on it when I was in my 20s. I certainly remember my first BlackBerry, and then came the iPhone and so forth. And there's been some changes around how you deal with clientele over that time, particularly as customers became more and more educated on most products and services, with more and more information being available to them. But I think there's been two really big changes for me in recent years. Number one is the pre to post COVID era, when businesses went from very much being face-to-face or phone-based to blending a lot more technologies into how they interact with people. So video calls has been a big change there, but there's a few other channels, that have jumped in. And so for me, the pre-COVID stats, 2 to 3 decision makers, particularly in B2B decisions, and generally 5 to 6 touch points was very, very standard. When we evolved through the COVID era, post-COVID, we're now looking at 5 to 6 decision makers on average in a commercial deal. So that's doubled from 2 to 3 to 5 to 6, and 11 to 13 touch points, right? And in fact, I actually heard recently that's now out to 17. So we're seeing a doubling in decision makers and a doubling in the number of touch points or meaningful touch points that buyers will want to have with businesses before they engage. And for me, the key change here is it's not about 5 to 6 meetings to 11 to 13 meetings, but it's about meaningful engagement now being spread more broadly across different channels. And we can certainly touch on that in more detail if you want. So I think there's a different way that we're now needing to engage with our customers because of the increased number of decision makers and increased touch points required. So that's led to a real requirement for salespeople to be using more channels in communication so that we can get to more decision makers, so we know them and they know us, and also so that we can be engaging with them in the form that works best for them, right? The modality that works best for them. So
Yeah,
that's
I
number
love that.
one. Number two, no one's going to be surprised here. I think it's the rise and rise of AI. And for me, where that's really changing is not so much at the strategy level, and that's at that level where you're doing the thinking and you're building out your sales process and all those key, really impactful things you need to do, like giving the customer a job, something I picked up from you, when you were on my podcast a little while ago. I love that. I think it's terrific. And
Yep.
those who don't know it, ask Matthew about that. But also, more importantly, where I think it's having that impact is in the implementation of what we do as salespeople. So around training, around coaching, around upskilling our teams, around reducing our admin, improving our preparation. And for me, I think that is and will continue to quite significantly change how salespeople and sales leaders really need to operate over the coming years. So that'd be my top two.
So, mate, let's talk about touch points because I want people to understand what they are, not just a phone call or a text or whatever it is. So, talk to me about those touch points. What do you mean? So, just expand on that, please.
Yeah, of course. So when we say touch points, you're right. It's not an email where we quickly type it and flick it. Great, that's one of my 13 done. And by the way, it's never linear, this journey. Some people have a lot more than that. But we're talking about meaningful touch points. And where I say meaningful, I mean touch points that are adding value. So we could be talking about education of a product, that's valuable. We could be talking about commercial terms of a product, that's valuable. We could be talking about implementation, how it will change the daily lives of people in the business, right? Those kind of 3 or 4 areas, they're absolutely meaningful. We're talking about how when you're enacting with the other side of the fence, if you like, that engagement is improving your relationship even. So it's not necessarily about what you talk about, but meaningful can certainly mean that you're increasing the trust, right, that you might have between both sides of the transaction so that you can allow yourself to just inch that deal a little bit more forward.
And so you also talked about different modalities, and one thing that I talk to my clients about, because in marketing world, there's it almost feels like we're sort of self promoting by saying, oh, well, you need to do a video or you need to do a high quality piece of content. So each one of these, and you talked about meeting customers where they are. Just want to expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, of course. And I think you've summarized where I'm going to lead in your kind of introduction there, and that is that it's not about one channel. Certainly not anymore. We'll talk to salespeople about you must be on social media. But if you're only on social media, I think then you're also running yourself into a no-through road, right? A dead-end street where you might be in trouble. So it's about having multiple methods that you can connect with customers on, be it phone, be it face-to-face, be it video, be it text message, right? I see SMS used really powerfully when there's somewhat of a level of a relationship build up. And be it podcasting or webinars, so your customers can be learning more about it. Certainly video. And for me, if you're not, as a salesperson, getting ready to embrace video, if not at the very least getting ready to embrace it, but ideally using it, and reasonably regularly using a form of social media, then I think you're letting yourself down. But they certainly need to be paired with really effective skill around building relationships face to face or via video or via the phone, whatever your key kind of modality is. So yeah, really about that multi-channel approach rather than just one thing over everything else.
Yeah, mate. I was just thinking about, because I wrote the email to my database today about when we first started. So my first business we started in 1999, so it's a long time ago, and we would literally, because there was no video demos, so it was all phone calls. It was a 1-800 number in a newspaper. They'd make a phone call. We would then have to, because we needed to do demos, we would then organize for a potential customer to talk to an existing customer. And for me to get the first customer, I remember our business was about 3 months old. We were right at the edge of having no money left. I took the rest of the money out of the bank account, got in my car, and we drove to Newcastle because I organized 3 demos in Newcastle. We drove from the Gold Coast to Newcastle. Me and a mate drove to Newcastle, and we closed 2 of those 3 deals. And that's the capital. That $10,000 worth of sales was able to get us to the next line and the next line and the next line. So that's how we were able to grow the business, by actually showing up and doing demos in people's houses. And that was for a piece of software. So we would actually literally go in and install the piece of software and do the demo. It was really doing that stuff has become far easier today. But then also what Google talks about is the messy middle, is people become aware of you, and then it's might be 6 or 8 months worth of thinking about it, looking at competition, forgetting about the idea, then coming back to the idea. Whereas back in the day, it was newspaper advert or whatever, and then the salesperson would track the sale all the way through to the end. So yeah, I really like what you were saying there. You've got to find those different modalities. So my question there is, when dealing with salespeople and dealing with sales organizations, a new person coming into selling, does that person have to start building a social media following on behalf of the company that they're now working for? So talk to me about how do you reconcile those two things?
So I think we're probably jumping into that territory around hunters versus farmers, and I've long believed that hunters and hunters, they're salespeople who go out and find their own food, right? They go and find their own customers, versus farmers who work with existing customers within the business. But for me, hunters, those who can hunt, will always have a sales role. Even more impactfully with the rise and rise of AI, where a lot of your back of house work will be done for you, and even some of your basic customer facing work can be done for you. Those salespeople that can build relationships or build followings or build databases will always have a job. And social media is one of those opportunities, if you like. So for me, it's not about, is it social media or is it an email database or a phone full of numbers, right? But it's more about the ability to build a database of people that you want to talk to. So for me, I'm really open. I am not an avid cold caller. I don't enjoy it. I've
Yeah, I
never
hate it.
been brilliant at it, but networking is one of my great strengths. So, and there's
Really.
subtle differences and nuances between them. Yeah. So for me, if I can network and build my database that way and supplement it with social media and supplement it through the podcast, then that all works really well for me. But I think the mindset to say I'm going to build my own network through whatever modality works best for me, and social media, I think, is a very good one. I think if you don't have a form of presence on social media as a salesperson, you're missing a beat. In fact, 70% of salespeople are now on social media, and of those 70% that are on social media, 78% of them are outperforming their peers. Right. And when I say 70% are on social media, I mean using it regularly and actively, outside of your Facebook or your Instagram accounts. They're actually using it to drive business and drive awareness. And almost 8 out of 10 of those are performing better than those that don't. So the stats there are pretty pro in getting onto social media.
I love that. Love a good statistic. Well done. Okay. So, how can a business who's going to recruit their first couple of salespeople get those salespeople to start to sort of bang the company drum? What's the process that they would go through to really get that salesperson to start showing up on social media on behalf of the business?
Yeah, for me, how we hire is absolutely changing. I'm certainly looking more around and recommending teams that I work with look more around resilience, right? The ability to come in and take a few hits and to prove you've done that across your life. Evidence of really buying into a journey or something within someone's life where they've shown a great level of commitment to and have some passion about, because for me, that then shows an aptitude to want to be really involved, and we can call it emotionally involved or pragmatically involved, whatever works, right? But that they've proven ability to get on board something important and have a level of resilience about them when they're doing so. Because for me, what that then says is we have someone who we can train into believing what our business does. And that for me
Right.
as a business is where I'd be starting, right? Is making sure that whatever salespeople you're bringing in actually believe in what you do. Because if you've got someone that's coming into your business and you're there to sell, I mean, my background's sustainability. If they're there to be in the renewables market and their lives outside of work are driving V8 cars, they're really heavily about anything but renewables, right? They don't know what solar is before they come in. They've never heard about draft stoppers or ways that you can reduce your carbon footprint, right? Then for me, there's a little bit of a mismatch there around if they're going to be able to believe in your business. But on the same token, if you have someone that comes into a renewables industry and they don't have any experience with renewables, but they've proven they've been able to get on board something else that's really impactful in their life, be it professional, be it personal, or anything in between, then for me, that they're the people you can say, right, let's get you trained into exactly what we do, so we can feel that real passion and that, those people you meet when you can just sense they love what they do. They're the ones that I'd be bringing into the business, because you can train them really quickly to then start being advocates for you and for what you do.
Yeah, I love that. So, what is your personal feelings about sales scripts?
Well, good one. I'm a big advocate of frameworks. And when I mean frameworks, that's defining your sales process and pulling together some general guidelines, almost like bumpers on the bowling alley, that will help send you in the right direction. So I work a lot around what I call the 3Ds framework, which is understanding deliverables, decision makers, and deadlines. Right, and there's a whole lot of work that goes behind that. I'm really big on things like red flag meetings, which I think we've spoken about. I love your concept, your framework around giving the customer a job, for example. So big on frameworks and giving people those directions with which they should be working in, but not so strong on scripts. I certainly don't mind a script for tricky situations, i.e. someone raises something that's maybe a bit of an objection that we can sit down and say, okay, well, we need to be pausing, we need to be asking them what the issue is and then expanding on it. You know, the occasional script I'm okay with, but for me on the broader approach, and I think the rise of AI into sales training and coaching will support this, but the broader approach of frameworks is more impactful than scripts for me.
Yep, I really agree. I used to have a word for word script, and I used to make my salespeople literally read the punctuation, pause here, breathe there, do this. And because I was the one in the sales room also running the same script, I was the one also winning the most deals. And I say, just do it like I'm doing it. And I tried to create a machine, and that worked great. But that was 15 years ago. World changes, and also people change, and communication styles change, and what customers are exposed to. So for me now, it's a series of chapters, and inside those chapters are questions. And there's no structure. There are some structured parts. There are bridges. If you're into music, there are bridges, there are choruses, but there's plenty of space in that 4-beat bar, 32 beats to actually have a bit of a play, have a conversation, build a relationship. But those questions, because I just genuinely believe that those questions are going to give you there's like you said, structure, so a person's not going to skip over an important qualifier, skip over a part in which they're going to miss, and just drive the person towards what's being measured, which might be a demo or might be an extra appointment. You start measuring those demos, and what the salesperson is going to do is start qualifying for demos rather than actually trying to make a sale.
Yeah, and it's a lot easier to remember chapters than it is the words within the chapter. I really like that analogy you used. A lot easier.
Yeah, it is. So so we know what is going to change in selling. It's continuing to evolve. So you got involved in an AI business, and I use AI literally every single day. I'm excited to see other salespeople get involved in AI. Tell me a bit about Icana.
Yeah, Icana is amazing. When we talk about bring people into a business who show they can be passionate about something, I'm certainly one of those people that when I'm happy and engaged, I'm a different person to be around than when I'm not. But for me, look, I'm 42. We had some great success with our prior businesses, and it's put me in a reasonably fortunate position to have a little bit more control, I guess, in the adventures that I'm choosing. And over the last 3 or 4 years or so, that lots and lots of businesses I've had a look at, and lots and lots of questions around whether or not we invest or we don't invest, and a lot around the tech space. Icana was the first one where I was pretty quick to say, yeah, I'm in. I love it. And in fact, I've taken up the role as Chief Commercial Officer within that business. Rick Van Ekelen's the MD there, and he's a 25-year veteran in AI. Right, for most of us, we didn't even know AI was around 25 years ago. Certainly, I didn't. But what Icana does is it's really changing the landscape around training development and the ascension around skill of teams, and it's doing it by taking your phone calls. So particularly this is really impactful for phone-based teams, really impactful for teams that do most of their work either by video or by phone, whether it be customer service teams, sales teams, QA teams, regulatory teams. And what it's doing is it's measuring 100% of those calls, which I don't think there's anything amazing in that in itself. It's then measuring what is said in those calls. And again, I think there's software out there that do that, but it's important to be able to measure what you say to then provide your recommendations. But the kicker for me was when Eric spoke to me about how it measures how you say it. So pacing, tone, articulation, empathy, right? All those EQ things that we talk about as being really impactful in building relationships. Not just what you say, but how you say it. And then what it does is it rolls what you say and how you say it up into really impactful training ideas or analysis or recommendations, if you like, as to how you can improve in your business. So at a team level, at an individual level, it's really customizable. You can actually train it to focus on the key parts of your book, the key chapters of your book, or the key parts of your process that you want to be really zeroing in on. And then the upskill lift comes from not just what you're saying, but also how you are delivering it, right? It's just game changing for me.
I really love that, because how you say it, like I was saying earlier, read the punctuation, breathe here, pause there. I actually was trying to, and I didn't have the vocabulary to say that, what you just said when 20 years ago, but you've got to tell, lean in. Even though we're selling on the phone, the old person phone should be like this, right? But even leaning in and dropping your tone and, actually, Mr. Jones, what I can do, it's that type of stuff that is hard to really articulate. Whereas if you've got some system being able to actually find that, identify what is there, and then train that and I guess proceduralize it, that's going to really create a difference. And you've seen big differences in sales teams?
Huge differences. So things like onboarding times drop from 6 weeks down to 4 weeks. So we're taking a
Right.
third out of time to onboard, and people are becoming, or agents are becoming, revenue generating 33% quicker, right? Which I mean, they're big numbers on its own. We've seen metrics grow around closing, in particular, around objection handling, by between 20 and 30% across clients that we're using. And I mean, we're talking about millions of minutes analyzed here, right? We're not talking about thousands or so. But by the end of this year, the business will be encroaching an annual run rate of getting closer to 10 million minutes per annum that are analysed, right? So big numbers. So we're certainly seeing those as being quite impactful. And then even with compliance teams, we've had a team actually reduce their team down to one only in compliance. So they had a team previously, and Icana's call coach has been so impactful on improving the compliance measurements and the compliance activities of the team that, and this is banking, finance, education, right, the more heavily regulated industries, but they've been able to reduce that team down to one. So just the manpower savings alone on that has been really significant. So yeah, I think it's safe to say it's working.
And so, I mean, I don't want to get too deep into the exactly how it does it. So
Yeah, of course.
does it take into account the best performers and then try to find patterns within those best performers and then say, okay, this is what is currently working, and then tries to provide coaching? So you say that it actually coaches people on how to change and where to change, those types of things.
Yeah, and look, I think you've hit the nail on the head in one of the areas, but there's two types of coaching you'll see from AI enablement tools. Number one is they'll provide you coaching within the call, right? So on the spot, all right, as you're talking to someone. And then the second option is they'll provide you the coaching post the call, right? So the call's all said and done, and it'll take a whole lot of trends from all of your calls and even just look at your individual call and say, right, here's where you can do better. I've never liked the first option around providing coaching on the spot, because for me, and there's heaps of data around it, but whenever you get interrupted, I don't know if kids, right, your kids are a little bit older, but certainly my 5-year-old, if she interrupts me, or if there's an interruption at all in my flow as a salesperson, it can really throw me off my next task, and the error rate's roughly double. The next 2 to 3 seconds after you're interrupted, the error rate's in what you say double, and it can take a long time to get back on track. So I've never been a big fan of that type of intervention or improvement in sales activities, but I've certainly liked the post call as quickly as you can to give you that type of feedback. So what Icana, this tool, is doing here is it's looking at your individual call, which is then rated into whatever area your business sets up, right? So if your business is focusing on closing, right, the call will really invest heavily into providing you analysis and recommendations around closing. It's then summing that up across the individual's group of calls, or the team's group of calls, or the broader business's group of calls, and looking for themes along there around where it can be providing that coaching and that support. So you get it not only in the one-off scenario that says, hey, in this call, Ben, you forgot to actually ask for the business, versus, hey, Ben, across the general board, you're pretty good at asking for the business, but you're not asking it in a way that's likely to lead to a strong answer at the other end, because you're too loud and too direct and too pushy when you're doing it, for example, right? So it provides those two types of analysis, but also for me, it then says to the organization, well, do you know what? Across your group, you've got some really high performers we'll stick with the closing example. You've got some low performers in the closing example, and a whole lot in between. Clearly, we need to do some more work around closing. So it allows you to then roll in the human side of training as well. So we have not only AI-driven coaching and training, we also have the human training that can come together with some synergies and a real focus around what exactly your team needs based on analysis of every single minute of conversation they're having with the customer. So there's 2 or 3 angles there that I think are really impactful, be it for sales teams, compliance teams, or customer service teams.
And so when you say teams, what size business is this? Is this right? I mean, I don't want to be a commercial for the product. I'm having a conversation.
Yeah.
I'm actually interested.
Yeah, of course.
So how big a business should it, I guess, how small is a business going to be that can get value out of this, or how big? Talk to me about the range there.
Yeah, absolutely. So certainly there's a little bit of scale I think a business needs to benefit from this type of technology.
Yeah.
When you have one or two people on the phones, it's not that it becomes cost prohibitive, because I think even one person, if this can lift your game 20 to 30% in closing, these type of tools pay for themselves. But I think to give you some broader macro perspectives on where your team needs support, generally you're going to look for generally 10 or more is where we
Yep.
tend to see most of our customers start, and up into the hundreds. I mean, we're analysing thousands of minutes a day for some of our bigger clients. So there's really no limit on the size of teams, but generally about 10 is where you'll start to see people enter this type of
Really getting the value.
AI. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, what's next for selling? I mean, forgetting AI, not that we're forgetting AI, but is there a trend? I'm often asked about marketing, and I've got my own answers in relation to what's the future of marketing look like. But is there any trends that you're seeing in selling that you think need to be taken into consideration for businesses out there and entrepreneurs out there?
Yeah, I think self-service in sales is going to grow. And I want to qualify that, because there's a few elements to self-service. But I think self-service, when it comes to understanding products, doing comparisons around services or products or what the market has out there to offer, engaging with brands, right, even at a baseline level, whether it be through demos or videos, or videos that are actually, or agents that are actually able to talk to you on the spot, right, AI-driven agents. I think that type of buyer research and buyer engagement is going to grow. So I think those sales teams or salespeople that are there to tick boxes rather than really add value, I think we're going to see more and more of that automated, and more of that move across broader content streams, so that the buyer can choose how they want to interact. But I think for salespeople who are wanting to look at what's their career like in 10 to 20 years, it is still going to rely really heavily on some of those soft skills around building relationships, around being able to negotiate to get a deal done, around being able to hunt genuine connections that need more than 5 or 6 different multi-channel, kind of outreach approaches. So I think there's going to be more automation at the generic level of selling, more buyers doing their own self-service, but the best salespeople are going to be at that top end of skill, where they can add value to a customer and cross those bridges around empathy, cross those bridges around trust. And as more and more of sales becomes automated and AI driven, the value of relationships, I think, will have more and more of a premium. So those that can do it, when you can build that relationship, you're more and more likely to actually have a great sales and revenue for the business you work in.
It's hard to have an argument with you, Ben, because I couldn't agree more with what you just said. I built a graphic for one of my webinars recently. I said, so back in 1999, advertising would happen here, then sales would do all of these activities, introduce people, send brochures out, do demos, provide case studies, do all of these things, and then ask for the sale. Well, now marketing is doing more and more and more and more of it. But the thing is, it's not the salespeople becoming less important. The salesperson's actually got to be really good, because you get fewer and fewer opportunities to build rapport, fewer and fewer opportunities to be good at your job and to lock into where the customer is. So they might have spent 3 months looking at your business. They've got to be excellent at that time. If they're not excellent, then we got real problems, and that person's going to walk. They're going to continue. They're going to think about it. They're going to talk to the board or the dog or their astrologist or whoever, whatever the excuse is. But they're out. So that's the salesperson needs to be better and better and better. But it's that last bit. And also another thing I've been saying recently on my webinars is that the speed you can grow your business and the speed at which you can build and transfer trust. And so that trust piece is an alignment with my salesperson has to be in line with my marketing structure, because I want to have a cohesive engagement across I don't know who you are to I found out who you are and I know what the problem you solve, all the way through to buying your product. And if there's not a cohesive line between those two, and if it's too jarring at that point, then the person's going to be thinking about it, putting it off to next quarter or putting it off to next year or never.
Yeah. No doubt for me, alignment between sales and marketing teams is more important than ever, because if they can't execute in that aligned fashion, then those second chances, they're not coming, because it's so easy to go and look at others.
People don't have the patience anymore. So, even 10 years ago, or pre-COVID, you got second or third chances, you got second or third phone call, you got another way to show up at a networking event, or however it might be, however you were introduced. But if you've got to be absolutely sharp up in a loving and caring way, not sharp as in buy my thing and ramming it down their throat. That's a real dance. And that's why sales trainers, I think, have got their work cut out for them. And you're obviously doing a great job. And that's why I've stepped away from doing sales training, because that is a real nuance there that takes a specific personality to deliver on. So I really take my hat off to you if I had one. But it's really key to get that piece of work so right.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, mate. So look, so what? Let's say we've got if somebody's looking to adopt AI in their marketing or their selling. Let's talk about selling for the moment. If somebody's looking to actually adopt AI, they go, right, I need some more leverage. I need some more, sales. What do they do?
Yeah, that for me is a question that we're going to hear really differing answers across the globe on. And look, perhaps I take a too much of a soft approach here, but for me right now, it's about progress over perfection. And I'll use an example around, let's say, buying a house. So we go through that journey in our lives. It's a big one. And for most of us, it's about putting ourselves in a position that we can buy our house when the right one comes along. And there's more than one right house for most people in this world. There's thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of houses that are right. But to know that you're in the spot to buy that house, you need to get your finances sorted, get your pre-approvals done, understand what your budget is. If you have a partner that you're buying your house with, align on the needs you want. Go around and meet some agents perhaps, or look at some houses and make sure that you start to understand, do you want brick, do you want weatherboard, do you want north facing, full house apartment, right, townhouse, whatever it is. And there's lots and lots of work that you need to do so that when that right house comes along, boom, you can jump on it then and there and you get the house, whether it be auction or negotiating, right? But it looks like in the moment that all you're doing is buying the house on the spot, but you've done lots and lots of work to increase your knowledge base in the background. That's where I'm at with AI now. I don't necessarily think that if you're not using AI in your sales team now, not necessarily that you're at a disadvantage. I think there are certainly advantages to do it, and I'll take a very general approach here. But what I do think is that the time is coming sooner rather than later where we need to be using AI because the cliff will drop quickly. Right, it's that moment when you suddenly realize that you haven't done enough, but you're too far behind. You haven't trained enough for a race, but you're too late to start training for it to have an impact. So for me, it's about small steps in businesses now that are going to lead you to the point that when the right AI tool or opportunity comes along for you, you're ready to pounce. And so those small steps can look at a minimum, using AI for preparation for your sales meetings or your customer meetings, right? All right, do more than just go to a website now. Use an AI tool, a Grok, a ChatGPT, whatever it is. Create a web agent, right? An AI agent, to start doing that research for you. I think that's absolutely critical. Using some of the AI predictive text that's coming out of your CRM, your HubSpots, your Salesforce, right? All the major CRMs now, even Go High Level, are starting to roll some AI features into the CRMs that will reduce your time, i.e. make you more efficient, and allow you to very quickly get the back of house boring admin tasks done. Start to look at call coaching and call training, right? That's a really easy one for businesses who have phone-based teams out there, right? Start to look at how you can upskill your teams through the usage of AI, right? But find that area in your business where you can start to make progress and then let that AI journey happen for you and your team rather than waiting until you think you have the perfect opportunity to jump in and roll out the game changer, because I'm just not sure that's going to happen for many teams out there.
Mate, I love that. I think I did martial arts for many, many years, and I say, well, let's not look at black belts and try to win in that ring. Let's go play with white belts. What's the first step? What's the one thing we can do? What can I just use it more? Can I put their website in and the URL of the LinkedIn post and put that into chat at GPT and say, well, tell me more about this person and what are their values and what role and how do they, and then also grabbing for example, if I'm selling to a project manager in the mining sector, we'll go find a job description of a project manager in the mining sector and say, what are their values in education? And just learn a little bit and get AI to do those little bits and pieces. Not the most sophisticated, might be a bit of legwork, but it's doing the bits. I love that. So one step at a time. That's a really great piece of advice. Good on you. So mate, look, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. Speaking of first steps and training, good best of luck for Cairns on the weekend. Your triathlon, mate. You're feeling confident about it?
Oh, look, in the last 3 months, I've had a bike crash and it was a decent crash. I've torn my calf. And I got hit by a bus at 80 kilometers an hour.
The proverbial bus. Literally got hit by a bus.
The mirror ripped off the side. It was hanging off as the guy pretty callously just did a hit and run. There was stuff all over the ground, and
Wow.
I was fortunate. In fact, I'm really fortunate. That's millimeters in terms of whether you're here or not. But I've had my fair hits along the journey. We've got a family that's sick at the moment, so I'm dodging sickness. But so there's definitely been some things saying to me, "Don't do it." Look, I don't think I'll set the world on fire with times, but I'm just really happy to do it. Happy to challenge myself. I spoke about resilience earlier, right? These
Yeah.
type of things, they build it. So I'm hopeful that there's a successful chapter in 4 or 5 days' time.
Mate, I know a few career salespeople, and you and a mate of mine, Sean, are both doing triathlons. You'll both be there in Cairns. I'm not the triathlon person. You don't want to move 115 kilos for that many kilometers. So I think both of my knees will just break down.
Yeah. I suspect mine will be breaking anyway. But yeah. Thank you. I'll make sure I look out for him
Yeah,
when we're
that's
rolling
it.
through the hills.
Very good. Well, Ben, really appreciate your time once again. Love catching up with you, and all the best. And I'd love to know more about, love to keep up to date with your AI journey. And if you want to send through any resources or links, I'll put them in the show notes below for anybody interested in incorporating AI into their sales process. So, mate, thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
Perfect. Thanks, Matthew. My pleasure.
Bye for now.